What's going on, people of the internet? Welcome to another Let's Listen. I am joined by, of course, Alan from GameGrooves here, back again with their next tribute to the soundtracks of Castlevanias 1 through 3. Encuentro de Sangre. And we've got some. Oh, I'm getting some thumbs up on my pronunciation there. All right, good. Very proud, very proud. Of course, those thumbs up are coming from Thennecan, famously of Thennecan, and Mauricio of ThePlasmas. How's it going, guys?
Thank you so much for having us. This album is really something we're very proud of. And I'm going to talk for Mauricio here because he doesn't have a microphone on. But I think, I think we are very happy to have been able to collaborate in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan was saying that it was kind of like an idea that he had that he wanted to pitch to you, and specifically to get the Latin American metal VGM scene for this album. Denikin and Alan, do you guys want to tell us a little bit about that? Maybe Alan, why don't you start off with the genesis of that whole idea?
It was a while ago, so I have to think hard. Um, well, for what I remember, I obviously knew of Thennecan and Ferdk, and I think Pokérus Project, and then Mauricio and ThePlasmas. I believe that the first time I interacted with them was for Cry of the Planet, which was our second charity album that came out in like June of 2020. But either way, I had this idea. I knew that there was like a strong Latin American community when it came to VGM music, especially metal. I knew that there was a lot of like metal VGM covers coming out from Latin America. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we kind of got a group of people that knew each other and worked together and like were like physically located in somewhat close proximity, Latin America, and got them together on an album. And so I pitched the idea to Thennecan, and then Thennecan helped me put in basically kind of recruited people more or less. So that's he obviously has the producer role. And I'm more of the executive producer, just providing like the funding and pushing it through Sound Drop and doing all the metadata stuff. But Thennecan, obviously, without Thennecan, the album wouldn't be possible because he knew who to talk to. And then of course he came up with a lot of great ideas along the way about how we could do the album. And yeah, so Thennecan, do you want to talk a little bit why you said yes to this crazy proposition?
Thank you. So, so the idea was to make like a very band sound like album. So we wanted to have like a very not short amount of people, but very close in general, like circle of people to do this album. And well, one of the first things Alan told me was that he felt that most Latin American guitarists like had a very like neoclassical background or power metal background, like and I think that in general that applies to like Ferdk and me, maybe Pokérus a little bit, but Plasma and Pokérus are more like hard rock and thrash metal and heavy metal, like old school metal kind of influences. So I felt like we could do something that had all those influences, and I had to find a way. And I always talk to Alan about this to make the most like band sound possible. So I pitched first that we had like we were all guitarists, the arrangers, like Plasma, Pokérus, Ferdk, and I. We are all guitarists. So I said, why don't we all take the roles of arrangers and guitarists for all the tracks, and maybe we have like drums, keyboards, and bass, and we have like specific people record all the basses, all the drums, all the keyboards. So we ended up contacting one drummer, one bassist, and one keyboardist for the whole album. And I think that was a great decision because if you hear the album, now we're gonna hear it a little now in a couple of minutes. It has a very consistent sound, even though we all arrange in very different ways. Pokérus, myself, Ferdk, and Plasma will have very different styles, even though we all play metal, kind of. but the album still has a very consistent sound because of that, because of the three main or like the band behind that's playing on the album. And also we had like one dedicated mixer and one dedicated mastering engineer that was able, even he said to us like in the process, like I don't even like notice who arranged what. I just like I have these tracks and I feel like I'm mixing a band because it's it's very consistent all the way through the
Hmm.
whole album.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit of tone and performance change with the different guitarists for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it adds that kind of like that variety to it as well. You know, like very true to GameGrooves' previous efforts and having that community feel. So you still got that variety and changing it up and stuff too. Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Did you have some keyboardists as well?
Yeah, so we contacted first. We wanted to pick one person from each band because every single one of us has our own bands except for Ferdk.
Hmm.
So my first idea was to pick one from each band. I picked Leo Millata, who is from Brazil. He's
Hmm.
a very good friend, and he has recorded a lot of drums for me. He's not on my local band because my local act has another drummer, but he has worked with me a lot of times, and he is also from Brazil, so that felt like adding one more piece from Latin America to the album as well.
Yeah.
And for consistency as well, we ended up choosing Gabriel and Yamil, which both play with Pokérus.
Mm,
So that ended up the main three other instrumentalists for the album.
that's amazing. And speaking of wise choices of people to pick, you really picked a good one for this incredible album art. Oh my God, tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so we actually had a couple of ideas, and Alan told me that he wanted to do like a very, 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 very metal looking album cover. And actually, the one who did the final album cover, it's my girlfriend.
Oh wow.
She's called Diana, and she goes by the name Di Valkyria, and she does all my album covers. So she had experience before with some more metal looking albums. Especially my Monster Hunter album, I think, was the more metal looking album in particular. And I showed that to Alan, and Alan said like, okay, let's go with this. And I know she's very focused on detail, so I wanted to do like something very like the Black Dahlia Murder
Mm,
inspired,
hmm.
which is mainly like landscapes, but very heavy metal landscapes. And I
Yeah.
think Dracula's Castle works perfectly for that.
Yeah, yeah, the amount of detail that's put into that. Oh my God, yeah. Like, folks, if you go and pick up this album on Bandcamp, you will get a high res version of the album art, and you will probably spend a good amount of time just zooming in and looking at the meticulous detail that's been put into it. It's absolutely incredible. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend that. Yeah, and just like it's all just blood red too. Like it's kind of
Mhm.
unforgiving and very haunting, you know, definitely feeling like it's the blood moon or something.
Yeah.
um yeah, yeah, it's really epic. Well, are we ready to kick off this journey into the epic world of Castlevania?
I did want to say one more thing. So we
Okay.
talked about like the album production process a little bit,
Mm,
or a lot of it. Thennecan was talking about that. One thing that was interesting was coming up with the title, right? What series we were going to cover. So I remember
Yeah.
we were debating a couple ideas. Um, I think Kingdom Hearts was mentioned. We were just trying to find a series, like a game soundtrack that would fit that genre. So it's like we knew what
Yeah.
genre we wanted to shoot for. It's like what game soundtrack would work well with that. I'm familiar with a few Castlevania songs, but I knew enough of that I could say, yeah, that sounds like it'd be a good fit. And then obviously these arrangers brought a lot of these tracks to life, a lot of which I had never heard before, and now I love them all because they're just great songs. So
mhm.
that's all I wanted to say was that was the last piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
the last piece of the castle, and then you
Very good.
realized you got to do it all again upside down. Okay, that'll be the next one perhaps. But yeah, folks, we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna listen to 4 tracks in a row here. The first 4 tracks on this album. We've got Thennecan, Ferdk, Pokérus Project, and then Ferdk again, and they are playing respectively, beginning from Castlevania 3, Aquarius from Castlevania 3, Mad Forest from Castlevania 3, and Out of Time from the original Castlevania. So, without any further ado, let's listen. Dang, guys, that is a strong start. That is the first 4 tracks off of Encuentro de Sangre. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna keep doing that. And also, we have Mauricio in audio form. What's going on, man?
Hello everyone, hola mundo, ¿cómo están?
All
Espero
right.
que estén bien. Hello, I'm Mauricio from ThePlasmas. I hope you like the album. There are coming like 10 more versions of Bloody Tears, so wait just a minute to Bloody Tears 1, 2, 3, and Vampire Kill. Excellent.
We're gonna do an entire album of Bloody Tears covers.
Oh my god.
Bloody Tears and
That's gonna be our April Fool's album. Just
Bloody
all
Tears,
bloody tears.
Dr. Willy from
Absolutely,
Mega Man
absolutely.
2, Bloody Tears, Dr. Wiley.
Oh my god. Legitimate though. Like I don't remember what year it was. It must have been like when I was in high school. It must have been like the year 2000 or something like that. Like there was this epic cover of Bloody Tears that came out. I don't even remember who did it, but it was like the first time that I'd ever actually heard anybody covering VGM, and it was like so solid. And I was like, "What the hell is this? This is amazing."
Yeah.
So I'm glad that people have not stopped playing Bloody Tears. I feel like everybody was
Yeah.
just spurred by that original epic solo, and we've all just been trying to reach for that since then. But that's okay because you guys aren't all doing Bloody Tears. But that's like the listening experience though so far, super consistent. Like you guys said, you really captured that band sound. It just feels, I mean, like, yeah, you can kind of tell a little bit of difference between the guitars and everything, but everything is just like mixed super well. Let's talk a little bit about the production. I'm curious to know how the recording went with like capturing all of the bass. I guess I want to call them like your backup band. Was that all like done like remotely, or did you guys like get everybody together in a session? Like, how did that go down?
So I think the first thing we had in mind was okay. So we picked the tracks. Each one picked. There are 4 ringers. Each one picked 3
Mhm.
from, and we did really quickly agreed to make Castlevania 1, 2, 3. And like I said today in the Twitter post, Alan did. I think I said, okay, so we all have a cover of Bloody Tears, so we can skip that one. There's no problem. There's no problem if we don't do that track. And so when we pick the tracks, I asked everyone to pick one from each game. So you're gonna notice that Plasma did one, Castlevania 1, 2, 3, Pokérus did Castlevania 1, 2, 3, and also each track features the main arranger and guitarist, but also features one of the other 3 arrangers. So, for example, I did Wicked Child with Pokérus, I did Silence of Daylight with Plasma, and I did Beginning with Ferdk. So, yeah, so all the album it's done that way, and everyone participates in almost every track. And
Oh,
of course, we recorded remotely, but we all arranged first and showed the arrangements to everyone, so we could all be like aware of what we were playing in each track, and fix that on the run, or maybe try to make a recording first, and check if it was all right, if we have to fix anything, and then it flew like really really well, all the process in general.
Hmm. Yeah, and props to your sound engineer as well, because putting that all together and making sure that everybody kind of sounds consistent. I mean, having your backup band all as one, well, not one person, but as 3 people, that can't hurt, but it's just all the same to make that sound so smooth between all of the different performers and stuff like that. Like, major props. Who did you get to mix and master the album?
James C. Hoffman,
James C. Hoffman,
he's
bringing
the
it together.
mastering man. I do want to give a special shout out there to Thennecan because um, he handled he handled all of the feedback with the artists and the arrangers and the musicians. I really didn't do any of that, so that was a huge help again, which is why he is the producer for this album. I was executive producer. I did the pre-production, the post-production, but Thennecan was instrumental, no pun intended. And and putting this all together, because I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not a musician, so I don't know what workflow works best. And that's why I just kind of, trusted him, and he obviously delivered big time. So, and so did all the arrangers and all the musicians, as you said. I mean, there's just a word that I keep coming back to is like consistency, right? With these albums, like we're trying to create a cohesive and consistent listening experience, while highlighting the various people in the VGM community. Everyone needs to sound the same, but when you have, there's been some just incredible albums coming out this year that are raising the bar for what VGM covers can be, like Mania Mode by Disco Cactus, or Brass Effect by the Game Brass, where you're just like, they're raising the bar. So naturally, like, this is, while we're going to continue to do the larger collab albums, this was a fun experiment to say, like, well, let's try to do something a little bit more focused. And since we have, smaller number of arrangers, we can do things that we couldn't do with a larger collaborative album. But again, I like, a lot of credit goes to Thennecan, and obviously a lot of credit goes to James, because I don't think we hadn't decided that in the beginning. I don't remember if we decided in the beginning or in the middle that we wanted a mixing engineer. Originally, I think we were just going to have the mastering engineer, but then along the way, we realized it would be beneficial to have both. And so James graciously offered to do both, and did them in a pretty timely fashion. I mean, I'm not going to say this was cutting it close, but it was cutting it close. A few sound drop emails like this week, like, are we still okay? Yeah. Okay, great. Next year, we're going to leave a lot more lead time, but this was obviously, we wanted to get this out in time for Halloween, for any horror or Castlevania fans, or metal fans, really. But yeah, I just want to sing both of their praises, everyone's praises, but especially those two people for their hard work.
Absolutely. Well, and we can sing your own praises too, Alan. Absolutely. You are the ringleader of this this crazy circus. So thank you for what you're doing for the VGM community, and for keeping these things happening consistently. It just means a lot for musicians to be able to be a part of something a little bit larger that maybe they couldn't pull off on their own, and be able to get out there and work with other amazing people as well. It's just it's really good for exposure. It's really good for community, and I hope you stick with it for a while yet. We are gonna be getting into, I think, our next listening block. And Mauricio, it's really cool that that you're able to speak with us now, because we've got some stuff coming up from ThePlasmas, in fact. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, shock and awe. Like you didn't know. So our next 4 tracks are solely by Thennecan and ThePlasmas. They are trading off here. So we've got Thennecan performing The Silence of Daylight from Castlevania 2. Then ThePlasmas performing Demon Seed from Castlevania 3. Thennecan Wicked Child from Castlevania. And then ThePlasmas Walking on the Edge from Castlevania. And Mauricio, I'm definitely going to want to hear about your experience working on these tracks after we get back from that listening block. But without any further ado, let's listen. Wow. Well, yeah. The horns up in the air. Actually, sorry. This is sign language for "I love you." This is the horns. I mean, I love it too. I'm not saying don't do this, but yeah. Wowzer Bowser. No, sorry, that is a different that's a different franchise. Yeah, so there we heard from Thennecan, and we also heard from Mauricio in the Plasmas. And we were also talking backstage about how there's a lot of like mixing of the collabs and who's kind of like working with who on which tracks. Yeah, and it was really fun to see like a difference in arrangement style, Mauricio. Like it was very like the sound of like the mixing and the performances all like sounded very consistent, but then there was that stark arrangement change. It was like, okay, now we're doing some more down tempo stuff. Like it's a little bit grittier and doomier. So that was really cool. So like, what made you want to like? Is that normally like your go-to, or were you like, okay, these Castlevania tracks that I'm picking, they need some drops and and some down tempos. Like, what was that like for you?
Well, I collaborated in the past with Felipe, so that was the easy part, and we're really very great friends since I don't know, like 2010,
Okay.
maybe
Yeah, I
maybe
think maybe.
2012, maybe.
Yeah.
And with Patricia of Pokérus too, and I don't recall how everyone choose here featuring or
I think I just did
if the
that
other
by
artist. It was maybe Felipe choose that. I don't know. Yeah. Well,
I think I
um,
just did just did an Excel like okay, these are the tracks and you're going with this featured guitarist.
okay.
Mm.
So I didn't have to think so much. Felipe did all the job. So I wrote the song, the composition, etc. And Felipe, okay, you Mauricio, this song, this song, this song. Okay, let me grab my guitar, and that's all.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, the the work between us uh, went so fast, so well. Um, we don't have to work so much on these collaborations.
Hmm. Yeah. How long did the album take overall from like the idea to getting it all in the studio and stuff?
What do you think, Alan? Like about 7 months or something like that?
Oh, sorry, we don't have you there, Alan. You're muted, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think it was around 7 months. That sounds about right. From the time that we really started inviting people, and maybe the beginning of the year. It looks like we created the channel. We had a private channel going on Discord, so I think the beginning of the year.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then it took some time to pick the tracks, and um, yeah, so that seems about right. I mean, it obviously was quite a different project from our usual stuff. So we knew that you needed the extra time
Hmm.
to really get all the arrangers on board. And I think what Mauricio was hinting at is that part of the reason that this works so well is that all these artists at the very least knew each other, and I think most of them, if not all of them, had collaborated before. So they knew
Yeah.
what their styles were. They knew how to like integrate their solos or whatever else, integrate those other featured artists. Um, and then that obviously helped make this hopefully it sounded like a smooth process.
Hmm.
Again, I wasn't really behind the scenes with that. I just said, here you go, you can take care of this, Thennecan. And he
Yeah.
apparently was a little bit of he set the rules as like, are you doing this, which is smart because it made it just simple.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I think
about 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only democratic part of the process was to how to choose tracks. Okay, so
Right.
we're doing Castlevania 1, 2, 3. Pick the tracks you want to do, and then I put them on a spreadsheet, and that I decided pretty much everything else,
Mhm.
except for the arrangements, of course, as well.
Right. And track order is part of that, I'm assuming as well.
I know, I think Alan did most of the album track order.
Yeah. I like to. Although I took some input from Thennecan, he did say there was, I forget which tracks it were. I think we switched Demon Seed and Wicked Child or something like that. It was one of those middle tracks.
Mhm.
But I have I'm going to do a quick GameGrooves plug on it for our website. I have a whole article that I've written about my philosophy as far as arranging albums, because I feel like there's a certain flow, a certain like pace that I like to have for every album. It doesn't matter what genre, doesn't matter like how many genres you have. And I knew like broad strokes, I knew beginning was going to be beginning just because of the nature of the track.
Well, let's put it third. Yeah.
Yeah. The end track kind of moved around a little bit, but Vampire Killer obviously spoke to me. But really, if you boil it down to its basics, the first half of the album is more energetic and upbeat. The second half is a little bit more moody and ambient. And you that's why I feel like Mauricio's tracks ended up more on the second half, because he's got, like you said, that like darker vibes of dun dun dun, and you're going to hear in these later songs, especially with within these castle walls, there's just some really like haunting is the right word for it, I think.
Like a haunted
melodies.
castle.
Yeah.
Vania.
Yeah, but so yeah, I had the beginning. I knew that Wicked Child was going to be what I call the climax track or close to it. It wasn't actually, but and then you have the anchor track, which is like the middle. So if anybody is interested in that, I forget what it's called. Arranging Your First VGM Album, I think is the name of the article. You can Google it. Yeah, I handled that, and then Thennecan suggested something that it was a good change, and we made that change. And then James, by that point, he had worked with the track so much, it didn't take him very long to do the masters. So.
Yeah, the only input I had was to not make the same arranger like follow up. Okay, so not having like two Thennecan tracks, one after the another.
But we did it with the Mauricio. I didn't realize that until later, because track 8 and 9 are the plasmas.
Oh, right.
But it works. It works.
Yeah,
it works. But what you were saying before, it didn't fit as well. So I think it was both of your tracks were together. That's what it was. It was within or whatever the daylight, the silence of daylight, and Wicked Child were next to each other, and having demon. Yeah. So,
I mean that demon seed inserted.
Yes, we inserted the demon seed.
Exactly.
Wow. All right.
It's getting real interesting lately.
You're going to have to label this a mature stream. Yeah. All right. Anybody got their kids watching this? Anyways.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing the link.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. It's got a nice visual there too. Yeah, well, I mean, that said, like it feels like a natural segue. We're talking about the climax of the album, and yeah, we've got that coming up next. Yeah, so we've got a good mix of everybody. Oh, except for Thennecan. Well, you're featured on some of these other tracks, of course. But yes, folks, we just got 4 more tracks of this album to listen to. We're going to hear from the Plasmas, Pokérus Project, and Ferdk. Up first, we've got the Plasmas playing Monster Dance from Castlevania 2. Then Pokérus Project Within These Castle Walls, which just makes me think of Super Mario 64. But that is actually from Castlevania 2. Ferdk Dwelling of Doom, which makes me think of Dwelling of Jewels. But that is also from Castlevania 2. And then, of course, finishing things off is Pokérus Project with Vampire Killer. So if we're all ready to go, then let's listen. There we go. We got him, Alan. All right. Okay. Enjoy. Oh, well, that is a very satisfying end to a very satisfying album. Yes, absolutely. Put your horns up in the chat for Encuentro de Sangre. Oh my God. What a great time that was. Yeah, and true to Alan's form, we've got the climax and the denouement. I feel like the album had a really good flow to it. Again, major props for the sound design and the consistency. Obviously, excellent job on the arrangements all around and the performances to match. Um, yeah, yeah, guys, congratulations. Good album. Good job.
Thank you.
And folks, if you do not have uh, one of the free copies that I've been handing out, because nobody but Humming Hermando raised their hand, you can go and check it out. Yes, Massacus, absolutely. Definitely go and check it out. Actually, Massacus, since you're showing some interest, you know what? I'm going to award you with a free Bandcamp code. So you can go and grab that. At that link there, I'm just whispering you here. So definitely check your DMs because I am sliding right in. Yeah. Can mods get a code? Oh, well, let's see. How many codes do I have? I've only got 3 codes left. Let's see. Can moods like Moo Man? Yes, that makes sense. Oh man. Yeah. Well, we'll see afterwards. But Thennecan, Alan, Mercio, closing thoughts, closing things. Anything we might have missed mentioning or shouting out.
I just want to thank you on. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the album, all the efforts of everyone involved. Thank to you, Olen, and bonus stage man. Thank you for hosting this, and everyone for make this dream come true. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Definitely. Yeah, Alan, what's coming up next for GameGrooves?
Oh, well, we have a few things.
Okay, pick two. Pick two.
Yeah. Two? Okay. We have a pop album, as I like to call it, that I just announced today, which we'll have more information on sooner. That's coming out in December.
Mm.
It's going to be an EP. But I will say our next full length album is going to be in February, and it is a Shovel Knight metalcore album. So if you like Shovel Knight or metalcore, get ready. It's going to be good.
Oh my God. Right on. And then again, of course, you are coming hot off the heels of VGM together. What's coming up next for you, dude?
So yeah, we have a presentation that we're calling like it's the premiere of this album, at least our section of this album, which is 3 tracks. We're playing 2 live next week here in Santiago, and then we have Ñoño Party, which I'm not gonna be playing like a main performer, but I'm gonna be playing with a friend named Iris Pamela Calvo as his guitarist, and we're gonna try to move the album on that scene as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And how about you, Mauricio? What's coming up next for the Plasmas?
Not too much, but we have a couple of things in the oven. Mm, some recordings. That's okay.
Right on. I did see your application for bonus stage ultimate, so best of luck there. But I think the odds might be in your favor, especially after listening to this incredible album. Yeah, folks, but that's all for this show tonight. Thanks again for tuning in. We will be back next week with Shane Stewart for his first original album, Life is Strange. And stay tuned on our socials for announcements about Bonus Stage Ultimate. That's Ultimate, and the E at the end is replaced with a 3 because this is our 3rd year doing it. It's yeah, I'm excited to see how this is all going to go. So yeah, folks, thanks again very much. I'll just put on a few tunes here as we get ready to roll out and maybe see if there's anybody we want to raid. Otherwise, folks, no matter where you're spending the rest of your night, please have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Buenas noches.